Hi, welcome to Quality Buick. What can I do for you today?
Hi. Well, I've got water leaking into the trunk of my car.
Okay, well, let me get some basic information, like your name, address, and phone number, and we'll get right on this.
Okay.
What you have just seen may appear to be standard operating procedure. However, while getting the information is important, that alone won't help ensure the problem is fixed right. Now, when a service advisor is dealing with a broad problem, such as a water leak, it's important to ask the right questions to aid the technician in his diagnosis. Now remember, the questions you ask have a direct impact on where the technician begins his diagnosis. Let's take a look at the opening scene, this time done the correct way.
Hello, welcome to Quality Buick. My name is Laura. How can I help you today?
Hi. Well, I've got water leaking into the trunk of my car.
Okay, well, can you show me where it seems to be collecting?
Yeah, it's on this side of the car. The water is right here in the corner. See?
Yeah, right there. Okay. Do you know if you're getting a leak when you're driving on wet roads or maybe when it's just out sitting in the rain?
Well, I noticed the problem when I opened up the trunk when I was at the grocery store the other day. And yes, it was raining.
Okay. Well, I think I have enough information about the leak, but now I need to get some basic information about you, like your name, address, and telephone number, and I'll give you a call this afternoon and let you know what we found out.
Okay.
Okay, come on.
The Know-How Service Advisor Guide contains a checklist that outlines the important questions that should be asked. Water leak diagnosis usually starts with a complaint like, I've got water leaking into my trunk, or I see water leaking around the rear window, or sometimes there's a musty smell in my car. Now, water leaks generally accumulate in one of three areas in the vehicle: the front of the floor pan, side of the floor pan, and in the rear compartment. The problem with a water accumulation complaint is that unless you duplicate the conditions under which the leak occurs, it's difficult to find the source. Now, that's where the Know-How Reference Manual can help. It contains a diagram that links each area of accumulation to possible entry points. Complaints of water entering the vehicle give you a head start in your diagnosis of the water leak condition. Now remember, the area which the leak is spotted is not always the water's point of entry. It's important to trace the leak back to its source. In other cases, the customer may not see the water leak, but may complain of a musty smell instead. Now, musty smells are typically caused by wet floor pan insulators. Certain leaks may not soak the insulator enough to show up as an accumulation on the carpet. However, a small, constant leak may keep the insulator wet enough to produce a musty smell over time. After you identify the area of accumulation, use the chart to identify its potential source. Now remember, there are also other causes of musty smells, such as headliners. Now, with a possible source identified, simply checking these areas for misaligned components, torn weather strips, broken joints, or sealer skips saves valuable diagnosis time. If the leak source can't be identified visually, use a water test stand to recreate the leak. A water test stand applies a large volume of water to a general area without exceeding the sealing limitations of the various seals. When the general area of the source is known, a garden hose can be used to pinpoint the point of entry. Now start at the base of the suspected area and work your way up and around the leak. Now you may want to have someone assist you so you can check for leaks from inside the vehicle. Another helpful test is the compressed air and soapy water test. Apply a solution of soap and water to the outside of the suspected leak area and release compressed air from inside. Now, leaks can be identified by bubbles in the solution. This method of testing is not practical for identifying all types of leaks, but it can be useful to detect leaks around the windshield or back glass. Now let's go over some common sealers that are used to repair water leak conditions. Thumb grade sealers are also known as strip caulk, body sealer, and dum-dum. These sealers are soft, pliable, and often used for sealing edges or plugging holes. Acrylic sealers are known as all-purpose body sealers. Acrylic sealers are strong, fast curing at room temperature, and will bond to most anything. Adhesive-backed foam is ideal for forming seals around plastic parts. This tape is perfect for sealing the cowl cover screen to its metal base. Drip check sealers are commonly used at seams that flex. A thick skin will form over the sealer once it is fully cured. These sealers can be painted after they are cured. Now, let's go over some common problems and their repairs on Park Avenue and LeSabre. We'll only cover the highlights. For a complete list of water leak repairs, see the Know-How reference manual. Common leaks around the cowl area include the HVAC case, electrical harness pass-throughs, and the alignment stud at the maxi-fuse center cover. The HVAC case has a gasket that seals against the cowl. If this seal was damaged or misaligned during assembly, water may leak inside the vehicle at the front of the toe pan area. This seal can be repaired from inside the vehicle by applying sealer around the entire edge of the HVAC case. Electrical harness pass-throughs are another area of concern at the cowl. The AC, PCM, and main body harnesses all have grommets that prevent water from entering the pass-through openings. If water makes it through one of these pass-throughs, it runs to the front of the toe pan. If you suspect water is entering a pass-through, check for twisted or mispositioned grommets and make sure that the harnesses are fully pulled through the openings. The final area of concern at the cowl area is the alignment stud that holds the maxi-fuse center cover. Any pinholes or openings around the alignment stud can be repaired with a thumb grade sealer. Now, let's talk about leaks at the fresh air management system. The cowl cover screen has a gasket on its back side that prevents water from entering the air intake passage. If this gasket is damaged, water may enter the air intake passage and travel down to the center of the vehicle's toe pan. This gasket can be repaired using adhesive-backed foam tape. When installing the cowl cover screen, be sure not to over-tighten the center attachment screw. Another area of concern is the fresh air intake umbrella. The umbrella routes water past the air intake opening to a drain channel. If the umbrella is misaligned or not fully seated, water may enter the air intake and drain into the center hump area. If the umbrella is mispositioned or not fully seated, simply lift the umbrella and reposition it. Make sure that the adhesive on the back side of the cover secures in place over the air intake. All water in the fresh air management system is directed toward a drain opening behind the driver's side fender. Make sure this drain opening is free of debris. If the drain is clogged, water can back up in the fresh air management system and eventually drain into the center hump area. Other leaks in the fresh air management system can be caused by burn-throughs at the weld areas at the bottom of the trough. Check around all the seams and the welded nut at the bottom of the trough for those burn-throughs. Burn-throughs can be repaired with thumb-grade sealer. Now, let's talk about leaks from the A-pillar trim screw holes. If water passes through the head of a trim screw, it will run down the A-pillar along the door flange and will eventually enter the kick panel. These leaks can be corrected by applying a small amount of thumb-grade sealer into each of the screw holes before installing the A-pillar trim. At the base of the A-pillar, there is a flange that connects the A-pillar to the upper fender support. If there is not a solid bead of sealer between the base of the A-pillar and the upper fender support, water may enter and leak onto the kick panel side of the tow pan. Any leaks in this area can be corrected by applying a thumb-grade sealer to the void at the flange. The hinge pillar is located inboard and rearward of the hood hinge. There should be a solid bead of sealer covering the seam. If there is a skip in the sealer, water may enter the vehicle and collect at the front of the tow pan. Loosen the hood hinge to fully expose the seam. Then, use a thumb-grade sealer to repair any skips. Now, let's take a moment and talk about leaks at the tow pan seam. The tow pan seam is beneath the front edge of the carpet, level with the accelerator and brake pedal. If there is a skip in the seam sealer, water may enter and soak the front of the tow pan. These leaks can be repaired by pulling the carpeting back and applying sealer to the area of the skip. Another area of concern at the floor pan is the parking brake cable well seal. A rubber heat shrink patch is installed over the parking brake cable well to prevent water from entering the tow pan. If this heat shrink patch is mispositioned, water may enter through the parking brake cable opening or the surrounding seams. Any water that passes through will accumulate on the driver's side of the floor pan. A mispositioned heat shrink patch can be sealed by applying a sealer around the cable opening and the edges of the well. Now, let's take a moment and talk about leaks in the door water management system. The purpose of the door water management system is to route any interior door water toward the drains at the bottom of the door. The window frame door glass seal, the interior window regulator splash shield, and the water deflector are the primary areas of concern in the door water management system. When everything is properly installed, water will be deflected and routed to drain openings at the bottom of the door. If the deflector is misaligned or has a rip in it, water passes through the door pad and can enter at the toy tab opening. Anytime a water deflector has a rip in it, it must be replaced. In some cases, misaligned deflectors can be repositioned. Make sure that the interior window regulator splash shield is properly installed. The last area of concern in the door water management system is the window frame door glass seal. If the window frame door glass seal is not properly seated against the glass, an excessive amount of water will be allowed to enter the interior of the door. Make sure the seal is properly seated against the glass. Next, we'll be talking about leaks at the toy tab opening. The toy tab openings are located 8 inches from the edge of either front door on the inboard side of the sill plate. If a toy tab opening was stamped oversized, water may enter the passenger compartment while driving on wet roads. It is important to remember that the toy tab opening may not always be the source of the leak. Any leak around the door primary seal will travel down the door and accumulate around the toy tab opening. So always check the door seal before assuming the source of the leak is at the toy tab opening. If the toy tab is the source, the leak can be repaired by pulling back the lower trim and applying a thumb-grade sealer into the opening. Next, let's talk about the door weather stripping. The door weather strip must be fully seated to the door opening. If the weather strip is not fully seated against the flange, water may run behind the weather strip and can run down between the weather strip and the door opening flange. The water most likely will enter at the toy tab opening. These leaks can be corrected by removing the weather strip and applying an acrylic sealer to its inner surface. Now, let's take a moment and talk about leaks at the back glass, usually caused by a skip in the back glass seal. These skips typically occur on the passenger side. Seal skips in the back glass allow water to enter and run into the rear shelf trough. The water will then empty into the front of the trunk floor. These skips can be repaired from inside the vehicle. Push down on the corner of the rear shelf and apply sealer to the butt joint area. Now, let's look at leaks caused by a skip in the LeSabre rear compartment lid seam seal. LeSabre models have a horizontal seam that runs the entire length of the rear compartment lid. If there is a skip in the sealer, water may penetrate the seam and collect in the rear compartment. Any skips in the sealer can be repaired by applying sealer to the area of the skip. Other common leaks in the rear compartment area include the rear compartment gutter seam, tail panel, power antenna opening, quarter panel to extension joint, pinhole silicon bronze joint, chimsel harness seal, loose or missing fascia nuts, and the fuel filler door pocket to quarter panel seam. Now remember, the Know-How Reference Manual contains a full list of water leak conditions and repairs. Now, using the Know-How Reference Manual, along with an organized diagnostic approach, not only improves your ability to repair your customer's vehicle, but also helps the customer have a feeling of confidence and trust in you, your work, and your Buick dealership.